गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। I was born in the darkest of the spiritual master of my eyes, the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desires, you can fulfill the desires of everyone. They are full of compassion for the fallen conditions. Also, Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Gire Yad Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we'll continue our discussion on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8. And I again didn't get a chance to hear anything about those verses. Yeah, somebody heard something? If somebody would like to share something, if somebody heard some class or some clarification that we were having those discussion in the previous classes.
I did not get a chance, Mataji.
Gayatri Mataji or anybody?
No, I was very busy this week.
Okay, so we will continue our discussion and then we will see if we can, some other later on we can hear, and then we have something from their clarification if we get. So, which words we were on? I am completely forgetting.
I think we have to start with 8, verse number 8.
Eight, yeah. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out. I think, yes, we have done till 7th. So someone wants to do a little bit of like a review of what we have done so far, or?
I can tell Mataji whatever I remember. Here in this chapter, Arjun is asking Krishna, saying, what is Brahman, what is Adhyatma, what is Karma, what is Adhibhutam, and what is Adhidevam. So then he's then asking, how can we remember, how can we know that we know you at the time of death? And then Krishna replies that he gives the definition of Brahman. He gives the definition of the Virat Roop is basically Adidev. The super soul is the Adi Yagna, and the material manifestation which is Adi Bhuta. He gives those definitions, and then he speaks about if we can remember him at the time of death while we are putting a body, then we will attain his nature. We will go back to Godhead. Then he mentions that whatever we think, whatever is our consciousness at the time of death, that kind of body we will attain in the next life. So then Krishna is saying that you have to always think about me while doing your prescribed duties. If we keep doing that, then we will attain Krishna.
Yeah. Yes. So first 4 verses, Krishna was answering the questions Arjuna asked about the, yes. Okay. So let's start from verse number 8. Yeah, that section was from 5 to 8 was about remembering Krishna at the time of death. So see, like for that answer, Krishna took like 4 verses, 5, 6, 7, and 8. How important is that question, remembering Krishna at the time of death? But others so he quickly, like, kind of answered quickly, right? So,
Yes, Mataji.
so it's very, very important. And in Bhagavatam also, in that second canto, we are hearing that remembering Krishna at the time of death. Parikshit Maharaj's question, what is the duty of a person, and in particular of one who is about to die, right? All right, so let's continue. Yeah, someone wants to read.
I can read
Yeah.
it now.
Okay. Yeah, Prabhu, go ahead.
Abhyasa-yoga-yuktena cetasa nanya-gamina parmam purusham divyam yati parthanu-chintayan. Translation appropriate by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhu, maybe we can read the word by word meaning also.
Yeah.
So
Okay, yes.
we are going slow, so it doesn't matter.
Abhyasa yoga, by practice. Yuktena, being engaged in meditation. Chetasa, by the mind and intelligence. Na anya gamina, without their being deviated. Paramam, the supreme. Purusha, personality of Godhead. Divyam, transcendental. Yati, one achieves. Partha, O son of Pritha. Anuchintayan, constantly thinking of. Translation appropriate by Srila Prabhupada. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Parth, is sure to reach me. Purport. In this verse, Lord Krishna stresses the importance of remembering him. One's memory of Krishna is revived by chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna. By this practice of chanting and hearing the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, one's ear, tongue, and mind are engaged. This mystic meditation is very easy to practice, and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. Purusham means enjoyer. Although living entities belong to the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord, they are in material contamination. They think themselves enjoyers, but they are not the Supreme Enjoyer. Here it is clearly stated the Supreme Enjoyer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its different manifestations and plenary expansions as Narayan, Vasudev, etc. The devotee can constantly think of the object of worship, the Supreme Lord, in any of his features, Narayan, Krishna, Ram, etc., by chanting Hare Krishna. This practice will purify him, and at the end of his life, due to his constant chanting, he will be transferred to the kingdom of God. Yoga practice is meditation on the super soul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, one fixes his mind always on the Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. One example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming butterfly, and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives, we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna.
Yeah.
So, Yamataji, yeah, so Krishna is saying that we should constantly remember him, and if we remember him and undeviated, like Hitukim Pratihatam, that was, it reminds me of that, without any cause and constantly, without like ceaseless, we will attain him. So then in the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning that we have to think about Krishna's form, any of the plenary expansion, Narayan, Vasudev, and we have to constantly the chant the holy name, because this holy name will purify us. When we hear this transcendental sound, it purifies our heart, and because our mind is fickle, this transcendental vibration of the sound will keep us engaged in thinking about Krishna. And if we keep that thinking, like a caterpillar thinks that he has to become butterfly in the same line, if we keep on, if we keep determined, and if we keep chanting this Mahamantra, we are sure to achieve Godhead.
Yeah, so I just want to, because this topic is about remembering. So in verse number, like I just am connecting the verses. So in verse 5 and 6, Krishna was speaking about, in 5, he said that if one remembers me at the time of that, then they will attain me without any doubt, right? And then in sixth, he said that whatever state of mind you are in at the time of that, that is what you are going to attain. And then in seventh, he was talking about, okay, then how to remember Krishna. And then he was saying that you remember me all the time and at the same time do your prescribed duty, right? That's what we discussed, that okay, should one remember Krishna and then work, or should one work and remember Krishna, like that, right? So he was saying, Krishna was saying, so after speaking 5 and 6, in 7th he was saying, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, means like a person, not like an impersonal Brahmajyoti or anything. And then at the same time, carry out your prescribed duty, which is fighting right now, which Arjuna didn't want to do, right? And then he was saying that dedicate all activities to me, and your mind and intelligence also should be fixed on me. Because if our mind is fixed and intelligence is fixed, then only we can dedicate those activities. Otherwise, mind keeps wandering here and there. We remember and then we forget. We remember and then we forget. And then we were discussing about that. Okay, how to practice that remembrance. And then this point we were discussing that we chant, but many times our mind just goes away from that. So meaning, while chanting, we should remember that these holy names are not different than Krishna. It will not happen quickly, but we need to practice that, right? We need to practice that whenever we are hearing, reading, or chanting, any activity that we are doing, we need to remember that. And then Krishna, if we try to put our efforts, then Krishna will remind us of himself when our time comes, right? That's what we and remember that, oh, I forgot to send that letter that I was reading, right? I think I read some letter in
yes, Mataji.
Okay, I'll try doing that today. Okay,
thank you.
Okay, so in verse number 8, it is speaking about that remembering Krishna by practice. So means, because right now we have forgotten completely, and this verse is speaking about abhyasa. So this word abhyasa, yoga yuktena. Yoga, we know, is Srila Prabhupada many times speak about yoga means plus, means we connect with Krishna. Abhyasa, right now we have forgotten, so we have to practice. And Srila Prabhupada always says, many times he says that practice makes it our second habit. Just like when one is learning dance or music, they have to practice, otherwise we will forget. Even playing kartal, if we don't practice, then we will forget. Any language, if we are learning, if we don't practice it, then we will forget it, right? So abhyasa actually means to repeatedly remember me. Like many times devotees tell, okay, I go to work and then I completely forget about Krishna. And then I remember hearing that sometimes some devotees suggest that we put an alarm every 50 minutes or one hour or 30 minutes, whatever, right? To remind ourselves of Hare Krishna. So, and then if we do that, initially it will be just by alarm, but by keeping on doing that, it will automatically become our habit. Just like before coming to Krishna consciousness, and after some time we were not in the getting, because just when we get up, we are actually told to offer obeisances to spiritual master and the deities and Krishna, and right. So we were not doing that before, and then by practice it became our habit to do it. Yeah, abhyasa actually means that repeatedly remember Krishna. The mind should be engaged in this method, which is this yoga of repetition of remembering Krishna. It should not wander to other objects of remembrance. By this practice, one will conquer the nature of the mind, because mind's nature is accepting and rejecting. But if we practice, just like an example of putting the nail in a wood, right? So if we just hammer it once, the nail will not go there, right? We have to keep hammering it in order for it to go inside completely, right? And to put that mark in there, that impression in there. So repetition helps us to drive the information into long-term memory. So, but we want this remembrance to go into our heart permanently. We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. Some quote from somewhere. Yeah. Okay, what else? Yeah. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport is saying best way is to remember by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So this example that Srila Prabhupada gave in the purport, right? The caterpillar. So he says that example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly, and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain at the end of our lives we shall have the same bodily constitution as Krishna. Nice, right? So how to become butterfly? So we must want to fly so much that we are willing to give up being a caterpillar. Right?
So, when
Yes.
you say the
Meaning
same constitution,
we have to we really want to be something, then only we can give up, just like for a child when they are crying and we want to, like, I always think of this example that if they are holding something and something harmful and the child, if I snatch it, it is going to be that they are going to cry more, right? So but if I offer a candy, then they will just run to the candy and drop that object. So same thing, we have to find that higher taste, just like in Bhagavad Gita, that verse number, second chapter verse, right? विषयाविनिवर्तन्ते निराहर्ष देहिनां रसोवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य param drishtva nivartate. So that higher taste we have to develop, and that can happen only in the association of those who have that higher taste. Right? Yeah. So I was hearing one lecture of Srila Prabhupada today. And then Srila Prabhupada, somebody asked a question about what is this material world. And so, because those were young disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and then Srila Prabhupada was saying, oh, where you suffer, that means it is material world. And he said that I'm not suffering. And Srila Prabhupada said, because you are young, have you never got any disease? And then this person says that everybody gets it. So Srila Prabhupada says, everybody is miserable. That does not mean that you are not miserable. And then he says that you will be forced to become old, even if you don't want to. So I was just thinking when we were reading this verse that if I don't force myself to remember Krishna, then I will be forced to take birth again. So it's better to force myself to remember Krishna than to be forced to take birth again. Right?
Yes, Mataji, and I was thinking about that video which Sarang Prabhu had shared about the young disciples.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Prabhu. Yeah, what you were talking, what you were
The conviction they have, the beautiful answers they gave with so much conviction. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it was just in 4 and 5 years in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
I was just amazed to see. And that's why Prabhupada's disciples are doing so much. They have done so much because they have that full faith in their spiritual master.
Yeah, and there is one thing about this faith. One time, like, in India, Srila Prabhupada's god brothers would complain about that, these boys and girls, they don't do this right, they don't do that right, they don't they don't have proper Vaishnava etiquettes. And then Srila Prabhupada says that they have one most important thing that will take them back to Godhead is that they follow what I say.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes, Mataji.
follow what I say.
Yeah.
So anything else anybody wants to add?
Mataji, quick question.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Quick question. When it says we have the same bodily constitution as Krishna, that means Sachidananda Vigraha.
Yeah. We have Sachidanand. Our soul is Sachidanand.
Right.
Yeah.
And complete knowledge, but
Yes, full knowledge. Just that it is covered because of our being tiny in the marginal potency. We have the tendency to go here and go there.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So should anything else? Anybody? Okay. If not, then let's go to the next section, which is from 9:13.
I can read
Section.
Mataji.
Yeah. So just this section is remembering Krishna, practice remembrance through meditation. So Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So Krishna is going to speak about Yoga Mishra Bhakti, remembrance through meditation. So how Krishna can be remembered in, now he is going to describe. Okay, yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Thank you, Mataji. Kavim Puranam Anusasistaram Anor Antyamam Sam Anusmaredya Sarvesya Dataram Chinta Dupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parasat. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You want me to read the synonyms or just translation?
Yeah, Prabhu, go ahead. Because anyway, we are just going slow to read the synonyms.
Kavim, the one who knows everything. Puranam, the oldest. Anusasiraram, controller. Anu, then the atom. Anisyansam, smaller. Anusmaret, always thinks of. Ya, one who. Sarvesya, of everything. Tataram, the maintainer. Achintya, inconceivable. Rupam, whose form. Aditya Varnam, luminous like the sun. Tamasa, to darkness. Parastat, transcendental. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One should meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the one who knows everything, as he is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond the material nature. Purport. The process of thinking of the Supreme Lord is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal or void. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. The process of thinking Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated here. First of all, the Lord is a Purusha, a person. We think of the person Rama and the person Krishna. And whether one thinks of Rama or of Krishna, what he is like is described in the verse of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kavi, that is, he knows the past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. He is the oldest personality because he is the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. He is the supreme controller of the universe, and he is the maintainer and instructor of humanity. He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair, but the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Therefore, he is called smaller than the smallest. As the Supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as super soul. Although so small, he is still all pervading and is maintaining everything. By him, all these planetary systems are sustained. We often wonder how these big planets are floating in the air. It is stated here that the Supreme Lord, by his inconceivable energy, is sustaining all the big planets and systems of galaxies. The word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception. beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and there is called, and is therefore called inconceivable, achintya. Who can argue with this point? It pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this world, this material world, which is insignificant compared to spiritual one. How can we comprehend what is beyond? Achintya means that is beyond this material world, and that which is our and that which our argument, logic, and philosophical speculation cannot touch, that which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons avoiding useless arguments and speculations should accept what is stated in the scriptures like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the principles they set down. This will lead one to understanding. Haribol.
You want to say something, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji, the Prabhupada mentions in the purport that first of all, the translation, we are told to meditate onto the Supreme Personality of God and who knows everything. And He's the all-best and the controller. He's smaller than the smallest. And in the purport, we cannot meditate on something void or impersonal. We have to meditate on a person. And we can think of Krishna or Rama, but we have to meditate on the person of the Krishna. And the Lord is also Kavi. He knows what is the present, past, present, and future. And He knows everything. And He's the origin of everything. And everything is born out of Him. And He's the maintainer and instructor of humanity. And again, it says smaller than the smallest, which is we are 1/10,000th part of the hair, and He's smaller in that. And in that way, He enters the heart, the heart of the particle. Yet He knows everything. And also He's also called, He's got inconceivable energies, which is sustaining all the planets of the systems and the galaxies. And is the word achintya, again, Prabhupada is very significant. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking or jurisdiction, and He's called even inconceivable. And yeah, Mataji, that's what I have to say.
Very, very nice. Actually, these are like qualities of Krishna described. So we can remember Him through His qualities. So meaning the first one that is described here is this one, that who knows everything, Kavim, the one who knows everything. So many times we have this hard time of explaining ourselves to others, and we feel like, oh, I wish somebody can understand me. I wish somebody can know me. Somebody can know my feelings. I wish somebody can understand my problems and know my problems, right? So we can remember that actually Krishna knows everything. So even we don't even have to tell Him. But when we have such kind of feeling, we can go in front of the altar and speak to the deities, actually, that this is all going on and I wish, but Krishna understands us. Krishna knows everything, right? And then oldest means also like meaning nothing existed but Him, everything is coming from Him. And then controller, so when many times we feel like, oh, I wish it is under my control, like this Ukrainian war, many times we feel like, oh, I wish it can happen this way, it can happen this way, that way, I wish my child be like this and all that. So means in one sense we are trying to be the controllers, but actually we are not. And that's why we feel very disturbed many times then when things don't go according to our wish and desire. But then we need to understand that it's not us who are controllers, but it is Krishna who is the controller, right? And then one of the limbs of surrender is that Krishna is my maintainer. So here also these qualities described, maintainer of everything is Krishna. And he is transcendental beyond material conception. And this inconceivable is that, like Srila Jiva Goswami says, that unless we accept that Krishna is inconceivable, we cannot know Him actually, because He has so many inconceivable energies, so many like Krishna is unlimited, and our understanding, our brain power is limited. So we cannot know unlimited through our very tiny limited brain. And above all, that Krishna is a person. It's not that he is some energy. So means I have a relationship with him. It's not that I am alone and Krishna is there as a person and he is residing in my heart as super soul. Right? Yeah, so very wonderful qualities are given in this verse to remember Krishna. Okay, so anything anybody would like to add or say before we move to the next verse?
Hey Krishna Mataji, I have a question here.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
in the purport, Prabhupada is saying the living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair.
Yeah.
But the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Paramatma is separate from the jiva, right? So
Yeah, he is always separate from the jiva.
so he's not entering into the heart of this particle.
He is, that's what it's saying. The living entity is the 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair, but the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. He does. That is what is inconceivable nature of Krishna. Right? If it is not inconceivable, then we could understand it very easily, but we cannot.
Because I always equate that Atma and Paramatma as two birds on the same tree. So they're in the heart region, but Paramatma is not entering into the Atma or the Jiva, but it's like
Okay, so actually speaking, Atma is not like, it's an analogy. The birds sitting on the same tree is an analogy that in the same heart that Atma and Paramatma are there, right?
Right.
And the size of the Atma is like 1/10,000th part of the hair, right?
Okay, so it's an analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this body, which is made of matter, what is it? It's made of that. Mean it is kind of so many atoms, right?
Yeah.
So, so meaning he's inside and he's outside.
Yeah, it's both inside and outside.
Yeah, it's inconceivable. We cannot understand.
Yeah.
You know, when I was thinking about the size of Atma and Paramatma, in reality, if we take the modern microscope, if the size was 1,000 of 1,000 of a hair, the modern microscope, they are actually capable, to see. But I think this is not really the size, but this is analogy. In reality, the Atma or Paramatma, they are not they are out of this world. It's something that you cannot see at all. I mean, even with the microscope, which right now the possibilities of the microscope, if it was really like visible, it was 1,000 of 1,000 of hair, you would be able to see it. However, it's just the same way we cannot mix with the computer, right? Like, for example, we cannot, I don't know, go inside the computer to change some icons in the computer. In the same way, Atma or Paramatma, they are out of this world. They're transcendental to this world. So they're not made of the same material that everything else that can be seen in the microscope.
Yes, Mataji. And I remember hearing that from Srila Prabhupada. In some of the purports, he mentioned that we cannot see, no matter what scientific advancement one can make, but these cannot be seen by our material eyes. So it is, as you said, it is, just to give a comparison of the size of what size of the Atma is. Atma can only be, the presence of the soul can only be seen and perceived by the symptoms of, like in a dead body, what is missing? Everything is there. What is missing? The consciousness, and the symptom is that consciousness, right? Yeah. Yes, Mataji. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go. Should we go or something else? Somebody?
I have one question, Mataji.
Yeah.
So does it mean that the soul is not actually 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair?
I mean, it is like you cannot actually measure it. Basically, it is
Right. We cannot measure it.
we know from chapter 2. So that kind of size is given that it is invisible basically.
Right, but we always Prabhupada also used to say, he said, you take the tip of the hair, cut it in 100 parts.
Yeah.
It's
100. Given in the scriptures. It is because according to according to that compilation of scriptures, it means that meaning why do they say it like that is that because that if you do that actually it will not be visible, but scientifically they are trying to make things, but still they cannot see it because it is transcendental. And then again that verse can come, right? Atha Shri Krishna Madina Bhavet Grayam Indriyay Sevan Dehi Jivado Swameva Sfurati Yada. Because and remember Dhruv Maharaj. So he could see the super soul in the heart and then outside, right?
Right.
We don't have that structure, that eye.
Yeah, we need that eyes. We need that Divya Chakshu, like Krishna gives. Even the universal form we cannot see with these eyes. So what to speak of
Right.
any other form or Paramatma form or anything. So we need the transcendence we need to be transcendental to see something which is transcendental. We cannot perceive but Krishna is still very kind that when we chant his holy name or are in some Krishna Katha, hearing some Krishna Katha, he gives some little glimpse of the feeling so that we can keep going. Right?
Right.
Yeah. So we have to continue. I mean, that we need to follow the path that has been given to us by our acharyas. That's the only way. And the proof are the pastimes of like Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj and all these exalted personalities. Even the Goswamis, they were able to see the pastimes of the Lord in their heart, and then they did those things, right? So that is a proof that if we continue in this process, then we will one day be able to reach the goal. And even in current situation, we see certain personalities, right, who are just out of worldly, like our Srila Prabhupada. Even like there are Srila Prabhupada's disciples, like we saw the example of Srila Bhakti Maharaj, and we see our His Holiness Japataka Maharaj, like what all, what not, and then still they are continuing. So that means a higher reality exists. That's what is the proof. And if we continue the process with faith and conviction, then yes, these things will be revealed to us. Okay, so should we do one more verse and then we can chant one round?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, so still continuing on Yoga Mishra Bhakti meditation, remembering Krishna through meditation. Someone wants to read?
I can read, Mataji.
Go ahead, yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. प्रयणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्तायुक्तयोगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्रणाम आवेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषम् उपैति दिव्यम्. Srimad, pranay-kale, at the time of death. Hold on.
Oh,
Prabhu,
sorry.
can
Go
you
ahead.
mute your phone, please?
No, Mataji. Read synonym. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah. Prayana-kale, at the time of death, manasa, by the mind, achalena, without its being deviated, bhaktya, in full devotion, yukta, engaged, yoga balena, by the power of mystic yoga, cha, also. Eva, certainly, Dhruvoha, the two eyebrows, Madhye, between, Pranam, the life air, Avesya, establishing, Samyak, completely, Saha, he, Tam, that, Param, transcendental, Purusam, personality of Godhead, Upiti, achieves, Divyam, in the spiritual kingdom. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly stated that at the time of death, the mind must be fixed in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows to the Ajna Chakra. The practice of such chakra yoga involving meditation on the six chakras is suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, at death he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace. This is explained in verse 14. The particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Satchakra yoga or Bhakti yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendental through yoga during one's life. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah, so here Srila Prabhupada explained about the how we can remember the time of the how can we remember Krishna at the time of death. So we have to do the bhakti yoga, like for the yoga, for the yogis who do the who bring their life between the eyebrows or they are practicing Satya Chakra yoga and they meditate on their six chakra yoga. But for the devotees, they practice this bhakti yoga. They always engage in the devotional service of the Lord. And only by the Bhakti Yoga we can remember the Krishna. We can remember Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like a yogi fixing his mind on Krishna. Yeah. So the principle is fixing of the life air in between the eyebrows to assist the yogi to focus and fix the mind on Krishna. Without that goal, the practice. So the goal is to fix the mind on Krishna. So without that goal, the practice is not useful. And here it says that it comes from yoga balena, means the strength of the yoga practice. So we have to have that strength, like always be strong to practice. Practice is important in any type of yoga, right? One should practice transcendence now. So that is what Srila Prabhupada wrote in the last paragraph, that if we don't practice it now, then we cannot, I mean, all of a sudden we cannot remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. Practice plus dependence. So what is this devotional service or bhakti yoga is? Practice plus dependence on the grace of the Lord, like the pastime of Mother Yashoda, binding Krishna, our efforts, and then complete dependence on Krishna's mercy, right? Actually, I think we can do one more verse. So, oh, if somebody has something before we move on to the next verse. Nothing?
Mataji, I hear that, I don't remember, but where I heard, but I heard during death, the soul can pass out through any of those nine openings we have in our body, eyes, nose, ears.
Yeah. Soul can get out from any of those openings. Yes.
So based on from where it is living, that is also
Yeah.
matters for next birth.
Yes. You're right. Yeah, that's why these yogis, they try to close all the holes, and then the soul passes through the head. The what is that called? Randharena something. We heard in some of the verses somewhere in this Bhagavad Gita itself.
We read in the Bhagavatam, Mataji.
Bhagavatam also, yeah, and in Bhagavad
Yeah.
so in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we heard, no, sorry, Bhagavatam Canto 2, second chapter, that there was that how they close all the holes and then it goes from the head.
But for the devotees is not important, right, Mataji?
No, not at all. For devotees, nothing, no.
Because we automatically, if we are
Remembering,
practicing the Hare Krishna, then
yeah.
automatically your concentration goes in between the eyes, right, Mataji?
Yeah, meaning because you are already remembering Krishna anyways. So that's what Srila Prabhupada writes, right, in the purport that for a devotee, they are anyway remembering Krishna all the time, right? So what was the practice in the previous verses too? The goal is to fix on Krishna. But a devotee is already always remembering doing everything for Krishna, then he is fixed in Krishna already, right?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, should we do this verse or should we just leave it?
I can read, Mataji.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
8:11 Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadtyo vitraga yaddi chanto brahmacharya charanti tate padam sangrehina pravakshaye. Should I read synonyms or translation?
Yes, we are reading.
Yat, that which, aksharam, syllable, om, veda, vidha, persons conversant with the Vedas, vadanti, say, vishanti, enter, yat, in which, yatayaha, great sages, vitaraga, in the renounced order of life, yat, that which, ichanta, desiring, brahmacharyam, celibacy, charanti, practice, tat, that, te, unto you, padam, situation, sangrahena, in summary, pravakshe, I shall explain. Translation: persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Purport: Lord Sri Krishna has recommended to Arjuna the practice of Sat Chakra Yoga, in which one places the air of the life between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjuna might know how to practice Sat Chakra Yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. The Lord says that Brahman, is it Brahman, Mataji? Brahman.
Impersonal Brahman.
Although one without a second has various manifestations and features, especially for the impersonalist, the Akshara or Omkara, the syllable Om, is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman, into which the renounced order of sages enter. In the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman feature. This practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life. But at the moment, such brahmachari, unmarried celibate life is not at all possible. The social construction of the world has changed so much that there is no possibility of one's practicing celibacy from the beginning of student life. Throughout the world, there are many institutions for different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in brahmachari principles. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the scriptural injunction for this age of Kali, that in this age, no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Haribol. Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, Mataji, it's about like how the sages are like following brahmacharya and they practice on Omkara and how they attain salvation, the one that we were saying, like the enabling the Sat Chakra yoga, about that. So yeah, Mataji, you can explain more.
Yeah, I mean, here still Krishna is describing some other things which are helpful for a yogi, right? So when they focus on Omkara, and they want to have the perfection, that celibacy. So see how in this process of meditation, this celibacy is so much important, right?
Yes, Mataji, that is very important.
So yeah, so and then again, Srila Prabhupada is bringing it to the point that in age of Kali, the best process is to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I mean, if we see that this like renouncing things and meditation, I mean, it depends on everyone's nature and mood. But devotional service, like, serving, visiting the temple, worshipping the deities, serving the devotees, hearing, chanting, dancing, feasting, all that is so joyful. So, meaning, and Srila Prabhupada in one class, he mentioned, even this chanting, there is no like bar that a child cannot do. He says that even a child can do it. And then he says that yesterday you saw that when Kirtan was going on, one father had the 6 months baby on his lap. And when chanting was going on, he was clapping. So he's chanting too. So even a 6 months old can chant. That's what Srila Prabhupada was saying. I was hearing one class. So, I mean, it is, and how in 9th chapter we will hear that verse, Krishna speaks, Raja Vidya Raj Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Vartyakshaavagamam Dharmyam. So, what is that? What is last part? Somebody remembers? Susukham kartum aveyam. Yeah, susukham kartum aveyam. It is always joyful. Yeah. So, dear devotees, so maybe anybody has anything to add or correct or anything? So,